To let you know.
Oh yes, meeting is now streaming live.
Yeah. Well, it's so good to see you, Annalise. I'm very pleased that you agreed to come and speak to me for tea.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Great. And I'm not sure if you've seen any of my tea time chats before, but we do start with talking about tea because I'm a bit of a tea fanatic. And for those of you who haven't met me before, don't know much about me, my name is Astra and I'm a mindfulness mentor for well-being in the workplace. And I do this through everyday mindfulness tools and takeaways, but also through offering accessible yoga. And I've invited Annalise today to talk about stress and using yoga, and particularly mindful yoga, as a really good tool for reducing stress. And Annalise, I don't know if I've got your title right. You're a yoga therapist for mental health, is that right?
Yes, I am.
Great.
And I specialise really in stress relief because I'm more of an advocate of preventing mental illness and managing to keep your mental health positive.
Definitely, definitely. Prevention is definitely better than cure.
Exactly.
We do what we do to try and, as you say, think about wellness rather than healthcare.
Yes,
That's the two ends of the stick, you know, preventative, keeping well rather than having to fix a problem. So I'm going to share what I'm drinking today. And then I'm also going to see who else is joining us for the live, because I do open up for questions. I have made my tea. I do like making my tea. I don't know if you can see that. And I've got it covered because I quite like to cover my tea so all of that goodness stays within the container of the cup.
Yeah.
And what I've done today is I've made my own tea bag. Like a organic, organic recyclable tea bag that I've stuffed some tea in it. So today I've got some robush tea, and I've put some cardamom in there, so a few cardamom seeds. I've got a bit of cinnamon, and that's cinnamon powder, and some what else did I put in there? Yeah, that's it. Cardamom, cinnamon, and a bit of ginger. I don't think I mentioned that because I really wanted something warming, and so that's my sort of go-to if I need something in the winter to make me feel a bit balanced and warm when it's quite dreary outside. You were just asking me before, what's the weather like where I am, and I'm in East London, and it's at the moment it's very wet, very wet at the moment.
Well, cinnamon's one of those really good spices where if you crave sweetness, you can replace sugar with cinnamon. So it's a nice pick-me-up when you're craving that something sweet in the afternoon, have some cinnamon in your tea.
Exactly. And I don't need to add anything to that. I normally add honey or maple syrup, but with the cinnamon in there, I don't need to add anything to it. But it's definitely what I use for a warming effect. And obviously ginger's very warming, but all of the three together, especially with the cardamom, is very warming. So that's what I'm drinking today. What are you drinking today?
I look like I'm going to do an advert, but it's because I'm promoting local. We were talking about doing that earlier. So I am drinking, I have to show this, the whole process of this tea is fab. So this is AS Apothecary, and it's a lovely lady called Amanda Sauer. Look, when you open it, you even have like it's in its own little tea caddy.
Yeah.
And this is called Every Woman Tea.
Every Woman Tea, yeah. So what's that got in it?
Oh, so I don't know if you can even see what's in there, but there are rose petals.
It's really colourful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So there are rose petals, calendula, olive leaf, chamomile. Oh, it's lovely. And I chose this because before lockdown, when I did my Relax, Restore, Revitalise course, people used to come and have a mini retreat with me, and we used to have a cup of this tea.
Yeah.
It's the most perfect tea to have a mindful moment with. So it's brewing in my little pot. And
Yeah.
I've gone all posh. We've even got a proper
You've
teacup.
got a teacup.
Proper China teacup.
I am a sucker for a teacup and salsa. Love it. Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So you've got your
I'm
teapot.
going to pour that and enjoy the smell.
So what did you say? Did you say what was that herb? I wasn't familiar with that. You said rose.
Calendula.
Calendula. What is that?
That's marigold.
Ah.
Yeah, so it's actually, I learned from a herbalist a long time ago, it's a liver cleanser. So, but it's also quite soothing. I think the whole purpose of this tea is that it's soothing, hence every woman.
Okay, well, what we'll do, we can talk more about how you work, who you work with, and get really into the subject of stress as well. But one of my things, and we were both training together in our mindfulness. What would you say? It was a conversion course from yoga to mindfulness, but then we went on to do the mindfulness training side of things.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and you might agree, that I really came away when I did the training was the power of the pause. Actually the pause is just as important as the posture. And that kind of changed the way I taught yoga and I practiced yoga. So my tea time session, I really encourage us to come into a pause at the beginning, which I've called a sip of awareness. So just inviting you to come into a sip of awareness for a very short moment before we start the session. And we've got Louise here. And Louise, if you've got your teacup, join us. Lovely. So that was, I mean, not even 20 seconds. And I'm imagining, just by looking at you, Annalise, that you're experiencing more flavor than you would have done had you not decided to pause and drink it. Is that a right?
Definitely. And when something is as special as that and it's fresh and homemade, you want to taste every part of it, don't you?
You do. And one of the things that mindfulness as a practice encourages is to really be present in that moment. So I find using tea is a really useful way of just coming into a very short mindfulness awareness practice and just appreciating, what you're doing in the process of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I always remember that came up on our training was, when is that, taking tea as an example, when has that tea become a part of you? So I love following it all the way down and just seeing how far down you can sense it traveling.
Yeah.
And thinking, now that tea is part of me.
Yeah, no, that's a very good way of seeing that. We're looking at that. I don't actually see it in that way, but there is that kind of point at which you combine with the object, and in a way that's what meditation is about, isn't it? It's that kind of, you focus on the object until the object becomes you and you become the object. It's very kind of like yogic principle, isn't it? Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. So I'm just checking who we have joining us today. So Louise, I hope you enjoyed your sip of awareness. Thank you for joining us. And we've got Rochelle as well. Hey Rochelle, good to see you. We've just done our sip of awareness. If you haven't, then just grab a drink, and you can do that while you listen to us get deep into the topic today. So Annalise, I wanted to learn more about what distinguishes mindful yoga from, let's say, your everyday perspective of yoga, or the way yoga is seen. What would you say is distinctive about mindfulness or mindful-based yoga, and why that in particular helps with managing stress?
I don't want to put down any other form of yoga, because every form of yoga has its value.
Yes.
But what I do see happening is that yoga is becoming a form of exercise for more people. And in that, it's losing its power and its benefits. And so, and I've also, I don't know about you, but I've noticed that many people have come to me and never learned pranayama, never learned breathing practices. And I think that's also a real shame.
Yeah. So would you say that's quite distinctive around mindfulness-based practice, that you always have a breath practice or pranayama within the class?
Yes, and also from my personal training in yoga teacher training, Ujjayi was what you use throughout the whole
breathing
class. And so you're constantly aware of your breath. And then when you add mindfulness as another layer, you can not just be aware of the fact that you're breathing, but how the breathing feels, you know, how the breathing impacts your mind and your physical body. So, for instance, if you just take a big deep breath in, you might notice that there are some areas where you're a bit tight in your back, or that your belly doesn't really relax. I had a client just this morning who said, oh, I can't actually relax my belly. And a lot of women have been taught over the years to hold our tummies in so that we look slim. And it gives us endless digestive problems, you know. So when you start becoming more aware of our form, our function, our thoughts, you can bring all of that into your practice. And it sounds like an awful lot, you know. If I said to a complete beginner to come aware of all those things, they'd go, hang on a minute, I don't even know what I'm doing. So it's definitely a journey, but it's a journey worth taking so that you can take it off the mat and into your life. And then your whole life just becomes more mindful. So that's really what benefits you in terms of stress relief, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good distinction about awareness, because as you say, when you're coming into just exercise, there is I would say with exercise, there is an awareness, you know, if you're jogging or walking, there is an awareness that you tune into, but it's probably not as detailed as, say, mindfulness awareness is cultivating. So, you know, as you just said, that, you know, just noticing as you breathe where you're experiencing that breath in the back, the sides of the body. You wouldn't go to a gym and think, oh, where am I experiencing the breath? Is it, you know? So it's more about the awareness of the detail of what's happening, you know, and so when you become a little bit more aware of some of the details, are you saying that that helps with stress because it's working the awareness muscle? Is that in a way what you're saying?
Well, stress manifests itself in many ways, but very commonly it begins with your breath. It changes the way we breathe. And so if we become mindfully aware of the breath, we then recognize in you know, in an instant, oh goodness, I'm breathing into my chest. Either I am stressed or my body's got into the habit, because I'm stressed so often, of just breathing into the chest. And so you notice the things that are causing stress, causing suffering, and you can also, you have tools that help you manage the stress and relieve the stress.
So, okay, so what I've just taken from that is that you notice how stress manifests in the breath, first of all. So, and I've experienced that with stress. You first know you're stressed because the breathing changes. And I remember when I was in a really stressful job, I would say I'm a stress at work survivor. I remember being on, you know, just tapping and realizing that I was barely breathing. I don't know what it was, whether it was a deadline that I had to get done. And I thought to myself, I'm actually not breathing. How am I actually existing without breathing? But what I was doing is I was breathing really like short. So it was like I was barely breathing. And that was, for me, straight away an indicator that I was stressed. So I totally agree that, you know, when you're coming into a mindful approach to yoga, the breath is really important. You start with the breath, or you start with the being present in the breath. Is that kind of where you feel it is?
Yes, and that leads nicely on to the fact that the sort of second foundation of mindfulness, if you like, is awareness of the body.
Yeah.
And when stress manifests in the body, it's often, you know, the shoulders are up at the ears, that we're clenching the teeth.
Yeah.
Or some persistent pain in the body recurs because we're holding ourselves rigid. You know,
yeah, I mean, I've experienced that. I mean, if anyone else has got any comments about where you notice stress when you're sitting, or whenever you're feeling stressed, Louise or Rochelle, if you're wanting to comment about where that might manifest, whether it's through your brain, you don't have to comment, but it could be that you resonate with what we're saying, that it could be your breath, it could be your shoulders, you know, your neck. Where would you say you notice stress in the body generally? So I'm really interested to hear that. And anybody watching on the replay as well, do comment, and I will get back to you after the recording.
And I'd be interested to hear as well, do you notice?
Do you notice?
Because not everybody does notice.
Yeah. Do you
notice? That's the problem, isn't it? That when we're very stressed, we're so in our heads that we've lost that sense of awareness and that connection to the body.
Yeah.
Body, breath, and for me, the ground. We lose the connection that we have to the earth. We're way up here instead of being down there. And that's one of the most powerful practices, is any kind of grounding technique.
So starting with the feet.
Yeah, starting with the feet. Any, you know, in any pose, noticing your contact with the ground.
And it's a really interesting way of looking at it, that our brain or our mind is the furthest away from the security of the earth.
Yes.
So I never thought of it that way. That's a really good way of looking at it. So how do we connect what's going on here with what, you know, with grounding? Louise has said that she feels the stress in her stomach.
Yes, that's very common, and we get digestive complaints and IBS.
Yeah.
And it's, the gut. Well, it's not called the second brain for no reason, you know.
No.
We get that gut response when something's jarring or causing stress.
So how would we attend to that? You know, so if one of the things we were talking about is how we reduce stress. So if we're noticing that the stress is manifesting in the stomach, how would we use kind of mindful techniques to attend to that in your experience?
Well, the first thing is to recognize that this is what's happening. And once you've recognized it, can you just accept it and allow it to be as it is? And to really feel what that's like in your gut. You know, some people will get constipation, some people will get diarrhea, but other people might just get soreness and pain or bloating. And all of those experiences are feeding back through the nervous system and will have a knock-on effect with some other system in the body. And if we then return to the breath, and we use the breath to, ideally, we want to focus on, this is a little bit more of the yoga than the mindfulness.
Yeah. I'm really keen to hear, though. So I don't mind talking about yoga, because, you know, mindfulness is based in yoga.
Yes, so. Exactly. But this is the kind of science behind it a little bit. So when we breathe in, we stimulate our sympathetic nervous system. That's the fight or flight. And that's the part of our nervous system that responds whenever we are experiencing stress.
Yeah.
That's what makes us suddenly breathe up in the chest. So when we breathe out, we stimulate the parasympathetic response, which is known as rest and digest. So when you're stuck in a stress response, all the systems in the body just cease functioning. Because if you think about it, if you needed to run away from a tiger, you don't need to eat, you don't need to reproduce.
No.
You know, you eliminate everything unnecessary.
Yeah,
and this doesn't happen anymore today.
You don't need to pollute. It actually shuts. It's almost like when we go to sleep, isn't it? It actually shuts all, as you say, those functioning aspects of the body down.
Shut those functions down. So we've got to switch our body from sympathetic dominance to parasympathetic dominance. And we do that primarily through the breath. So we want to focus on the out breath, and we want to lengthen the out breath. But we also need to breathe into the belly versus the gut.
The gut. And last week, not last week, a few weeks ago, I covered belly breathing. But is there a very short practice that we could share with our listeners, as you say, that would help them think about extending that out breath?
Yeah, definitely. Use sound. So people are not always very comfortable with sound, so I break them in gently.
Right.
And I want you to choose, so those ladies that are listening, you choose either to blow, and it's slightly pursed lips, so it's not it's not really tight. It's
so
slightly pursed lips.
Like a straw?
Yeah, like with a straw. So you're having to control the flow of air. The second option is to make a hissing sound, so S.
As you breathe out?
As you breathe out. And the third one is F.
I'd like to know what I'll be saying with the F when I'm feeling really stressed.
And each of those sounds helps you to control the airflow. So what happens quite often when we are stressed is that we'll just kind of heavily and the breath's gone.
Yeah.
But when you blow, or you make the S or the F sound, you control the airflow. It tends to push the breath right down into the belly. And then the key thing is that when the breath's gone, there's a little pause. And that's when you let your belly relax and then invite the breath back in, rather than pulling the breath back in. That does take practice. Okay,
so what we're going to do, listeners, is we're going to do this with 3 breaths. So we're going to come into that breath 3 times, and Annalise is going to kindly guide us through that. And then when you've finished, take some time to pause, and then if you could just tap and let us know how you experienced that. So after you, I will follow your lead, Annalise.
Okay, so it can really help to put your hands on the belly. So you're making that physical contact with your belly in the first place. And then you're going to breathe in through the nose, and the first one we're going to blow out.
Okay.
To try and even that flow of air, have a consistent volume, pressure, energy. Pause at the end, relax the belly, take another breath in, and this time on your exhale, we'll make the S sound. And again, pause, relax the belly, breathe in. And then finally make the F sound. Relax the belly, breathe in. One of the things that you may experience is a little bit of lightheadedness, because when you fully empty the lungs in that way, which you're doing when you're breathing out more fully, you also fill the lungs more, and we're suddenly getting more oxygen to the brain, and it can make you feel a bit swirly and lightheaded. So
yeah, well, what I experienced was I really found the F really helpful. And I don't know if it's because I was mimicking having to say a bad word when I'm feeling really stressed, but I found the F, my breath extended longer.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to try that one. I mean, I tend to always use the straw one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. And anybody else? So Louise or Rochelle, if you did practice that breath exercise, what did you observe? And is it something that you might find useful? I'm definitely going to try the F1. I immediately felt calm within the body space. But of course, I'm not in a stressful zone at the moment. This is quite a happy place for me. Yeah. Talking about how we, you know, help people with wellness. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. So tell me more now about your programs for women in particular. And I know that when we were talking in the pre-chat, you discovered almost by accident that some of the mindfulness techniques that you apply to yoga actually helps women in a certain point in their lives. Let's say the M word. Let's say menopause. So yeah, just tell me more about that and what you are now offering to women around that.
So you tend to attract women who are your age, and I've turned 50 this year, so you know most of my clients are middle-aged. And while I was teaching, you know, and I also tend to attract mostly women. It wasn't deliberate, but it's just become that way. I had so few men that I just decided in the end to focus on women's health.
Yeah.
Because I started to notice how we were all getting similar symptoms during a class. And it really manifested initially with cramp in the feet.
Yeah.
You know, we'd be in a mess, somebody would suddenly go, oh, hang on to their foot and I'd be asking them to breathe through it and try and relax through it.
This is like a collective cramping of the feet.
Not quite, but it was getting that way. It was like one of us would have cramp every lesson.
Right.
And then it was also the fact that I could see women were getting more stress, because middle-aged women, you know, we're having children later and later. So we're juggling younger children, the school run, packed lunches, goodness knows what, now that we're in this lockdown situation, COVID situation, it's become even harder.
Yeah.
We've got elderly parents that we might be concerned about, that we might have to support. And then we're also trying to run a business or keep a job down. And then how on earth do you fit in your own well-being into that? And I'm such an of self-care.
Yeah, exactly.
So when I did my training in yoga therapy for the mind, I learned to teach an 8-week course. And when I taught the course, there were certain things that jarred with me. And I wanted to adapt it to, I suppose, soften it slightly and make it more beneficial, a little bit more mindful and gentle. So I came up with a course that I call Relax, Restore, Revitalise. Nice. And it's an 8-week course. And each of those weeks we have a theme. And you learn a different breathing technique and a different activity. It's bespoke to you, actually. So it's not a group course, it's one-to-one.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Amazing.
And that means that the yoga is tailored to you as an individual. And we repeat the yoga practice so that it becomes something that you can fit into your day. So we might kind of chunk it into things. So say you're somebody that you might be a lark or an owl. If you're a lark, you can get up, you can put 10 minutes aside before you go out to work, and you can do something strong to get rid of, you know, when we're, especially with menopause and perimenopause, we tend to get more anxiety. It's just a strange thing, but we start to suffer anxiety, even if it's not, you know, if it seems irrelevant. So, and that can often manifest early in the morning. So we deal with that. And then you might put other things in the evening before bed that are very soothing and nourishing and help you feel relaxed.
It's
So that
very
you can,
bespoke, the sort of classic yoga therapy, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, very
Is
bespoke.
that part of it's very bespoke, but then you get the same breathing techniques that other people would get. So that's the same, but it's a different breathing technique each week, and there's a purpose behind it, and it's
amazing.
And then on top of that, you get video of the breathing practice, and sort of it reaffirms the theme. You get a manual each week.
Wow.
And I also, because I trained as a chef, I really wanted to bring in lifestyle skills, and I interviewed a lot of women about the course beforehand.
So people get an interview before they get onto it.
They have a call with me, before they come on.
That makes sense.
I also interviewed a whole bunch of women before I even started the course. We're in the planning of it.
Yeah.
One of the things that came up was lack of time, and
definitely.
For me, the one skill is menu planning, because a lot of women are kind of like, oh God, I don't think about food. I just buy stuff. It's in the fridge, and then I've got to think about what to make, and I don't know what to make. I'm a bit lost.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to put that in there to guide women to learn that a little bit of time one day a week is going to save you tons of time throughout the week. And it means
time management. Amazing.
Start building in some healthy eating skills as well. So you also have an accountability call, because like most online courses, and currently it's not only online, I can do it online, or if you're living near me, we can still do it in my studio.
Yeah.
But like a lot of courses, if you're just left to get on with it, you won't get on with it.
No, you won't.
I keep you accountable, and we have a check-in call every week to see how you're going. And sometimes I'm a bit tough, but with that.
No, this is what people need. As you named all of those challenges and struggles that lots of women at this, I'm probably perimenopausal. I think that's maybe the lockdown accelerated that. But it's something that it becomes very hard to manage all of the things to multitask, and so that level of accountability is very attractive. I love the way you've designed that course. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about how people can sign up for that, but before that I'll just check the comments. We've got quite a few comments actually. So going back to the breath practice, we've got Claire Badham. Oh, hi Claire.
Hi Claire.
She did the training with us as well. Claire is a wonderful yoga teacher. Really good to have you. So Claire said that she's never tried the F before, and it was interesting how long the breath was with the F. And Rochelle said she likes the F as well, so F is winning. Louise said, I like the blow breath, such a sense of calm with concentrating on breathing.
Yeah,
there's that kind of present in the breath thing that really
it's interesting how Rochelle liked the F as well. But and look, even with the blowing breath, as you say, it's that focus, it's that one pointed focus, just helps you get out of your head, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely, because as well as doing lots of physical multitasking, your brain is multitasking, and so that is a really good way of seeing it, that actually we're going to take all of this activity and put it into one thing, which is just the breath, and that's all you need to worry about. So excellent. Mav, hi Mav, good to see you. Mav says, I preferred the blow breath. My whole body immediately felt light and relaxed.
Oh, that's good to hear, man.
Yeah, so the breath is really important tool for mindfulness-based yoga. The body, we talked about the body and using breath techniques to help with how stress is manifesting in the body. I quite like working with the extended out breath for shoulder tension. So I find that it immediately helps with shoulder tension, so that's a good one. For those people who find that they're breathing quite short in the breath, and it's all going like this, then that is also a good one as well. So yeah, great. All right, so the other point that I think I wanted to make just about mindful yoga, and before we go on to how people can book onto your course, is that as well as thinking about the breath, as well as thinking about the body and how stress shows up for you, it's also about a bit of mindset. It's about knowing that we're all human. So it's kind of breath, body, and being. So this idea that, you know, when you decide that your problems are quite personal to you, it's a thing that you kind of can't shake. Whereas when you come into a yoga practice that is really about curiosity, about being, you know, how am I experiencing each pose? Then, you know, the compassion for how you experience the world becomes less personal and more about humanity and just being connected to all things, good or bad, you know. So for me, that was one of the what impacted me when I did the mindfulness training, and why I decided that mindfulness has to be a part of my yoga teaching, because it allows people to cultivate an awareness that lets them off the hook, that, you know, allows them to feel just about being human, you know, just, you don't have to think about your problems in that respect, but just that you're navigating life as a human being like everyone else. So that's my bit. That's the reason why I love to have a style of yoga that's mindful.
And I think it was so relevant. It is still so relevant, because at the start of lockdown, I'm sure a lot of people, I know I did, was just felt, oh my God, this is my situation. I'm feeling terrible. This is what it's like. And as you started to realize that, hang on a minute, we're all in this together, it felt less of a burden.
Right, exactly that. It's a really good analogy. It's a really good, and it was kind of, it hit everyone how connected we are, and the relationship between, as you say, feeling connected to others and other people's struggles, to actually befriending yourself.
And I feel that we are all, I know, getting a little bit Zoom fatigued, because you can't have that same contact and connection. On the other hand, it's brought a lot of us together. You know, you and I haven't seen one another since then. We've chatted, but it's not the same, and it's lovely to see your face.
It is. It's lovely to see your face.
But equally, you know, when everyone was out clapping on their streets, it has held communities together in some ways, and people have looked out for one another. And I know we've probably lost a little bit of that, but I feel that that's actually going to come back. And there's just this, I hope anyway, that there will be a more collective compassion that is felt in the whole.
Most definitely. Most definitely. And I think that people are a lot more connected to the benefits of ancient traditions like yoga and mindfulness since this situation, because we're needing tools to navigate, you know.
Sure.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to wrap up. I just want you to talk more about how people can sign up, if there's anybody that's listening that is quite interested in Annalisa's program on the replay. Just let listeners know more about how they can sign up for your course.
Well, so as I mentioned, it's quite bespoke. So the Relax, Restore, Revitalize course is for you as an individual, and therefore I want to speak to you as an individual. And so what I'd love for you to do is go onto my website, which is www.birchwoodyoga.co.uk, and book a 30-minute clarity call. It might run into 45 minutes, but a 30-minute clarity call on the bookings page. And then we'll start by having a chat and finding out what it is that you need at the moment, and what you've tried, what's not working for you. And then that'll get us clear on where we begin with your actual practice. And it's really important as well that when you're working on something that's so personal, that you connect, gel with that person. Definitely, so I think it's really important to have that one-to-one connection via Zoom, at least, before we begin any kind of a program, working together, so that we connect with one another. And you have to like me,
Yes,
we're going to work together for a while.
Totally, yeah, because you don't really learn from people that you don't like.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay, so I will drop your link in the chat afterwards as well. But it's been a great discussion, and I'm so glad we were able to share a little bit more about, you know, why we teach in the way we teach, and why we feel, you know, mindfulness-based yoga is so beneficial for stress. And thank you to everyone that jumped on and for your participation in some of the practices. And we have Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Nice to see you watching as well. So if anybody also wants to just jump onto an hour mindful yoga class, I do an online yoga class on a Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's a mindful yoga course. The course starts tomorrow, and it's 5 weeks. And I also cover different themes every week. And it's very much similar to the themes that we've been talking about today. Things like being present in the breath, things like being more aware of the subtleties of the body, and how the body can speak to you really when you get quiet and be interested in some of the postures that you're doing. And then, you know, around just being, you know, meditation, mindfulness-based practices. So that's my mindful yoga course, and you can get that on my link as well on Facebook at Therapy Yoga for Wellbeing, or on Instagram at Therapy Yoga. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Louise. Yep. It was good to see you, Claire, Mav, and Rochelle. Do tune in. I will be posting about my next tea time very soon. You take care. Thank you, as always, for being so much, what would I say? You're very genuine. You're such a genuine person. So I just appreciate that you always show up just as you. So thank you as well. You take care. Have a good day.
It's been so lovely to chat with you.
Fabulous. You take care.
I will do. And you.
Bye.
Bye.